Hey everybody, it's Annabelle, the VTuber demon that wants to play for fun, and I hereby invite everyone to join me on my adventures through Marvel Snap. So on today's Adventures through Marvel Snap, we are taking a look at the newest patch to come out. So in today's OTA patch, we had a couple of nerfs, a couple of buffs. Some were expected, some were a little bit surprising. So let's start out with the nerf that pretty much everybody saw coming, and that is the Blob. Blob may look exactly the same, and that's because he pretty much is exactly the same, except he now has his ongoing remove. This is to prevent the interaction that was happening with Mystique that nobody expected, where you'd have the 3 Blob Airsham deck, where you get the Blob off of Airsham, you get the Blob off your deck, and then Mystique would basically be your 3rd Blob, because she would copy everything that Blob did, because it had ongoing into it. Little shocked, little amazed that Second Dinner can't add a static text to this. Just put can't be moved at the end of this. Why that couldn't be part of the art reveal is kind of interesting. Maybe it's some back of the coding thing that has to happen. But would like to see somewhere in the future where this was just had the ability to not move still. I do like that ability. It's kind of Blob's thing where he becomes unmovable. Also, this kind of does wreck any cannonballs that you're using against this. In Airsham decks, you might now start seeing the Mystique removed and the Artemzilla come in and take its place, but we'll have to see what happens there. That was the big nerf to happen with the patch here. We had 2 smaller nerfs happen though. First of all, we had Mockingbird. Mockingbird went from a 5-9 to a 6-10. This is basically a double nerf to Mockingbird because, first of all, this means that now it can be hit by the Shang-Chi since it's now at that nice, juicy 10 mark for Shang-Chi. Also, this now means that it will no longer work on turn 3 if you played Mysterio on turn 2. It'll be 1 extra. Instead of being the 3, it'll now be the 4. Because if you play Mysterio on 2, that gave you 2 things that they insert your deck because the actual Mysterio starts in your deck. So when this was 5, that would knock 2 off of it, bringing it down to 3. Now Mockingbird has to come down 1 turn later, unless you do the first turn of Squirrel Girl and then Mockingbird. This also limits the ability to have that interesting pop-off on turn 5, where you play the Mysterio on 4. And then because of how Mockingbird was a 3 at that point, and Sasquatch was also a 3 at that point, you could basically play those both down on turn 6. So if you played that on 5 with the Mysterio, you could do the Mockingbird and the Mockingbird and the Sasquatch on turn 6. So now that can't happen because you don't have quite enough to make that happen, to have that interesting 20-point turn 6 happen. You'd have to play 1 more thing on that turn 4. Sorry, turn 5. So you no longer have turn 5 play Mysterio. Even if you have nothing else, turn 6 and get the 20-point swing. Now you need at least 1 more card to pull that off. No, let's not do that. Next up on the chopping block is Ravonna Renslayer. Ravonna Renslayer got a point shaved off of her. She went from a 2-3 to a 2-2. And Second Dinner has already said that if this does not stop how good Ravonna is, they might think about her having the zombie treatment happen to her. Because this is literally limiting the design space for Second Dinner. Every time they have a card that they want to reduce because it's getting too powerful and take a shave a point off of it, if it goes from 2 to 1, it's actually now becoming kind of a buff because of how Ravonna Renslayer was. Now, you could say the same thing is true for Mr. Negative, and how every time that point gets lower and lower, you could flip it with Mr. Negative. But Mr. Negative being a 4 makes it a big difference. So, interesting, because I like where she is. I like kind of this weird gameplay that she has with her. I think it's an interesting card, but anytime you're talking about mass mana cheat, or mass energy cheat, I should say, you always gotta be careful, because that's why Zabu had to take that hit. Okay, those are the nerfs that happened. Now let's talk about the buffs. Big buff winner is got to be Viper. Viper still looks exactly the same, because they are exactly the same. They just now got a quasi little text change. Instead of when you play her down, her taking a random card and tossing it over, you'll take the lowest card on your side of the screen and pop it over. Which means that if you somehow played this down and you had a -1 and a -5, it'll drop over the -5. Or before, if you had a -1 and you had a +10 even, there was a chance that the Viper could kick over the 10. Now it will always kick over the -1. Big, huge change for Viper. Kind of a get back the point from when she used to be 2 and used to be turn 1 play the Hood, turn 2 play the Viper. Now you could still turn 1 play the Viper. Sorry, turn 1 play the Hood. Turn 2 even play something else, like say, I don't know, an Angela, and then turn 3 play the Viper and not have to worry about the Hood being the issue there. Other big hitter that happened this time around was Lockjaw. The little pup got his power back. He went from being a 4/5 to being a 4/4, which sounds like a nerf, but it's actually a buff, because he got the ability to do his shotgun again. Now on her turn, as long as there's space available on Lockjaw, you can play as many cards as you want to, and they'll activate each and every time. So you can get up to 3 cards per slot. So if there's some way that you can do Lockjaw in a location, put down 3 things on that turn, then move over Lockjaw to another location, you can do 3 things on another turn. This is a big card for Airsham now. Get to play this down on 3, get not that bad of a card at 3 power, which is where Lockjaw used to be, was at a 3 cost. And now any card that you don't like, you just pop into the Lockjaw. Get 3 chances to reroll. Very big thing for Lockjaw. Up next we have Sauron. Sauron got 1 tiny little point of it. Now, that's not as big for Sauron as the fact that the Blob actually got changed, because now you can play a Sauron deck that's running the Sauron and the Red Skull, and is even running the Blob. So you don't have to worry about the Blob getting eaten by the Sauron, because Sauron no longer has an ongoing effect in it anymore. So that's more of a buff than it just getting that little power on it. Next up is Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night got 1 power added to it, which I believe is exactly how this card released. I'd have to double check. It's surprising how, when this card originally came out, that was supposedly going to be the most busted card in the game. And even now, if this got an extra point and started out as a 3/3, I'm not sure if that would be considered playable anymore. And that's how far Werewolf has dropped. And Werewolf's not an old card. Speaking of things that got a 1 power buff, Hit Monkey. Hit Monkey went from a 3/2 to a 3/3. Same problem that Werewolf had is happening to Hit Monkey, where it used to be this winner of game. But now, with cards that are out there, there's just cards that do so much better now. With your Gilgameshes and stuff like that. Even on a good day, if Hitmonkey hits well, let's say Hitmonkey gets 8 points to him. That's an 311. 311 isn't gonna do anything as opposed to just a Gilgamesh where it drops down and all you had to play was Blue Marble and it's already getting more than 11. I would not be surprised if at some point this becomes a 3 for the plus to power instead of the 2 for plus to power. Not sure if they'll do that anytime soon, but really, Hitmonkey almost needs that at this point. And last up we have Hydra Bob. Yes, I know this isn't Hydra Bob, it's Mara. Hydra Bob is right there. Same exact stat lines. I'm not getting Hydra Bob just so that I can do a quick little video on him. So Hydra Bob is now the same as Mara, where it's a 1-5. Shocked that Hydra Bob got this PowerPoint on it. Getting a little upset with Second Dinner, to be honest, about these cards that get these buffs as soon as they leave the shop. Not that Hydra Bob is the card that anybody was hoping to get or wanting to get even right now, but I almost wish there was some way where you could maybe like blow a key or two, even 2 keys, to like be like, hey, did you want Hydra Bob now that it's been changed? Here, blow 2 keys on it. I'm not sure if that would be a big thing or a small thing, but it's just getting to the point where it's like, if you know a card is going to be horrible, and I think I said in even Hydra Bob's video, I'd have to double check, that he'd get a buff. He was such a buff candidate. Here's the thing. On one hand, there's now part of me that's going, why would you ever play Marta when you can play Hydra Bob and not have to worry about the losing asthma? Second thing that I gotta say is, Hydra Bob is almost worse than Marta. Marta can lose you the game, or will lose you the game if you're not careful about it. But you don't have to snap. You're never losing out on the equity of snap. If you get Bob down on the field and you want to snap on that last turn, but Bob's in a location that makes sense for you, you can snap, but you're now going to lose 4 cubes because of that. Losing a game where all you lost was a cube or 2 is a lot different than winning a game and only winning 4. Because you couldn't snap on that final. I also is weird that Hydra Bob can't win Sanctum Sanctorum by himself if your opponent's just playing a simple Doctor Doom, which is very common in the game. It used to lose the lane, now it will tie the lane. I almost wish it would get +1 or +2 when you do snap, because that is so important. And because it's on both sides, that makes a bigger difference. And you can't control when your opponent snaps. Now, if it only worked when you snapped, it might be interesting. Then you could almost just snap turn 1 before you even play Hydra Bob, and then play Hydra Bob on 2. That might be interesting. There's also an interesting deck that is kind of milling around in my head that I've kind of been working on before, where you're basically playing ugly ones, where now you can play Marta, and you can play Hydra Bob, and you can play the Titania, and you can play the Ebony Maw. And the whole idea is that you play those early game, and then you just Killmonger, wipe them all off the board, and then you have a pretty good null to begin with. So those are all the nerfs, all the buffs. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.